Welcome to the HBOT News Network. I'm Ed DiGirolamo, and I'm here to have a conversation with Laurie Anderson. Laurie has an experience to share, and as in the medical field, we would call this a case study, Laurie's personal experience with hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Welcome, Laurie.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so glad that you're here. And I understand that you did get hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and I do want to talk about how you found it and how you got there. And I think it was at Extavita over in the Research Triangle Park area.
Yes, it was, absolutely.
And that's in North Carolina.
Yes.
So perhaps maybe you can share with us a little bit of your background so we understand your education, where you're coming from in this whole experience.
Sure. I'm a pharmacist by training, a PharmD. I got a degree at my PharmD from UNC Chapel Hill, and then after completing the PharmD, I did a residency at UCSF in San Francisco, and then back in North Carolina, and I worked for UCSF for a few years after my residency in neurosurgery, caring for patients post-surgery, and then I came back to North Carolina, and I was working for Duke in inpatient general medicine and critical care.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah.
So you have clinical experience, as I would say. You've seen the patients firsthand.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that's got to be a very challenging thing to do.
It is. It can be very complicated, and I think most people go into healthcare because they care, because they have a heart and they want to help patients, but it is hard work, and often rewarding, but it is challenging.
So you since moved on to the pharmaceutical world, away from the clinical area, and what is your role there?
So I do early phase clinical study work. So I design risk mitigation strategies for first time in human studies, normally in healthy participants, and then sometimes going into patients. So I look at the risk profile of the assets coming out, design risk mitigation strategies, and then follow them in the clinic to track them and make sure we're tracking them and we know what's safe and what isn't.
Yeah, so I think in structural engineering terminology, we'd say you determine if it's safe and effective.
Yes, I'm part of that team that determines if it's safe and effective, yes.
First safe, make sure.
First safe.
You can do the
Absolutely.
clinical trial.
My remit is safety.
Well, it's one of the interesting things I find in all the hyperbaric oxygen research is that one of the conclusions you generally find is that it's safe and effective. And so it's like me, it's like, why isn't everybody using it? It doesn't make sense. So.
Absolutely. I mean, when I first started looking at it, I was like, there is no risk. Like, I kept looking, because that's what I'm trained to do, is to look for the risk. And I kept looking and trying to find something that would, make me feel like I shouldn't be doing it, and then it just couldn't find it.
So I'm curious, is that what led you, with all that experience, what led you to Extavita? How did you find it? What was your initial reason for finding the clinic there in RTP?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a larger story, because I have a history of Lyme disease, and so I knew I had worked really hard not to get COVID. And because I knew that even though I was healthy, I knew that my body had a history of a chronic illness, and I was concerned that if I got COVID, I would end up with long hauler, which I had been reading a lot about. And sure enough, I ended up getting COVID. And I became quite ill, more sick than my friends were becoming. I had definitely lost taste and smell. I had a relentless cough, really awful fatigue, some shortness of breath that just wasn't improving. I ended up on medical leave, and I was starting to reach the end of my medical leave, and I still wasn't improving. So I talked to my naturopath, who had been following me for many years, and she suggested NAD infusions. And I'd never heard of that, so I started reading about that, and I Googled NAD infusions, and Extavita came up. So I came to the clinic to be assessed for a NAD infusion, and the nurse practitioner was like, you really should consider hyperbaric for COVID, because that's, we really are seeing, significant improvement. And at first I was like, no way, because I'm very, very claustrophobic, and I just like, I don't think I can get in the, I asked all these questions. How long are you in the chamber? What's it like? She gave me a tour of it, and I still wasn't sure if I could do it. And she was very kind and offered to go in with me for my first session. And actually that was the game changer for me, because I was able to, in a very, safe, with this person that I know and trust, to sit in the chamber and kind of experience it from beginning to end. And so at that point I signed up to go ahead and give hyperbaric a try. As I said, I did a fair amount of reading on it. I couldn't come up with a reason why I shouldn't do it. No red flags were coming up for me, and safety and risk is my area of expertise. So I went ahead and committed to coming in 4 days a week and trying to complete 20 dives. Yeah.
So what was that path like? Did you see improvement early on, or?
I got to say, I was kind of blown away, because I had been battling with no improvement for long enough to be concerned, and I came in, and I think it was about maybe 5 or 6 dives in, and my taste and smell started returning. It was completely gone, and I started to see that change. Probably in maybe 8, 9, or 10, my cough started going away. I would say by 12 or 13 dives, I felt healed. I felt recovered, and even better than I felt going in. And I could not believe the timeline and how quickly I started improving once I came in. Mm-hmm. I went ahead and completed 20 dives because I just had read so much and learned so much and could feel the difference, that I was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead, and that's what I've kind of agreed with myself I was going to do. I'm going to go ahead and finish the 20 dives. But I saw significant improvement within 10 dives. I couldn't believe it.
So when you said you felt better going in, you felt better with the dives than you did going in. Did you mean like prior to COVID or prior to that? What do you mean going in?
Prior to me getting COVID.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I just noticed a difference in my energy, my sleep, more restful. Because of my history of chronic illness, I track those things. Like, I'm very attuned to how my body is feeling at any certain time, and I just could tell a difference in my energy, mainly my energy level, and my sleep really shifted, which was a real gift.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, one of the things that I've had the opportunity is to speak to a lot of the doctors that are treating patients that are in the hyperbaric field. And, as I would say, your experience is rather textbook. It is textbook. And so the benefits that oxygen is providing your body to overcome these things, I think,
Absolutely.